Welcome to the Power 2 Pod. My name's Andy,
And I'm Jason.
and this week we'll chat a little bit about the college football playoff rankings that came out tonight. So we kind of got to see the pecking order of the four SEC teams that are locked in at 8-2. Kind of surprising, Tennessee is last of those four 8-2 teams there. And then Alabama they see as the best one. What do you see out of the rankings, Jay?
Yeah, I'm surprised to see Tennessee still in the mix for the playoff. Their key victories aren't there, and now you know they controlled their own destiny. Of if they would have beat Georgia, they would have been way up there. I think they were ranked like seven
Mm-hmm.
last week. To me, they should have fallen out. I would have rather seen SMU sneak in to that 11th spot versus Tennessee. But you hear a lot of arguments about the strength of schedule, and they're really a lot of people are trying to focus on one thing, and it's at the end of the day, the best teams with the best records should be the highest ranked. Like a lot of people are giving Indiana a lot of crap just because they really haven't played anybody. They have one of the worst strength of schedules, but they're undefeated and they've passed the eye test more times than they have not. Michigan was like their first close game. They dropped 50 on a lot of people, and I get there it's a lighter schedule, but you're still scoring by a lot. You look at other teams, that played really lesser teams, and it was a close game. Like Texas, they barely beat Vanderbilt, and Georgia, they barely beat Kentucky. So there's a lot of close games in there that, like I said, you just can't nitpick what you want to make your team look better in the playoff ranking.
Well, I think the biggest problem now is we're valuing losses. Who's got the best loss instead of valuing the wins? Like we're kind of throwing wins out the window for who has the best losses. And like it just seems completely backwards to me. Like winning's hard to do. Even if you have Indiana's schedule which is 106th, you know, in the nation, it's still hard to win every game. Indiana was picked to finish 17th in the Big Ten this year. So to say that what they haven't done isn't worthy of being in the playoff is kind of ridiculous. Now, and the whole thing, most of the hate's going toward Indiana and Penn State is where most of the hate's going in Miami. Those are the three teams that are catching the most heat for being ranked where they are. But at the same time, Indiana has 0 losses, Penn State has 1 loss, and Miami has 1 loss.
Hmm.
The other teams have 2 losses. That loss column has to mean something at the end of the day. I'm not saying it means everything, but it still has to mean something. You can't just, hey, but we beat this team and this team. You did, but you also lost to Kentucky, like Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. Tennessee lost to Arkansas. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. Like we're talking about losses to unranked teams. So, I mean, at some point, losses have to mean something. Like I don't think Notre Dame should be as high
Yeah.
as sixth with their loss. Like they lost to a MAC team that's probably not going to make a bowl game. Like Notre Dame, by far, out of all the teams listed, has the worst loss of any team in the playoff. And you want to go yeah, they've won every other game. Yes, but they still have that Northern Illinois loss, which is by far the worst loss. But that's also another caveat for you have to play the games. Like SEC wants to come out here, oh, we would beat this team, and this team. Well, the same team saying that have lost to the Vanderbilt, have lost to Kentucky, have lost to Arkansas. So you can't just come out and say we beat this team, we beat this team. You had the chance to prove it, and you
Hmm.
came out with a loss. So I mean, that's my biggest gripe. We go back to everybody hated the BCS back in the day, but that was back when we were only taking 2 teams. I
Yeah.
mean, why not go back to the BCS to find out the 12 best teams? You're taking any sort of brand bias out of it that you want to, ESPN and SEC are, in cahoots as we know. But if you look at the rankings, I think the committee is being pretty partial. And if you look at the BCS rankings, there's not much difference. Like your top six are the same six for the most part in the if they redid the BCS rankings, it's just a couple teams flip flopped here and there. So I think the committee is on the right track because you have to reward winning at the end of the day. Like you play the game, you play to win the game, as Herm Edwards would say. You play to win the game. So you have to reward winning above all else, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, you can nitpick, you know, each and every one of these picks in one way or the other. But what the committee has kind of a challenge in front of them is the head-to-head matchups. So I mean, you can only move so many teams around to where it's justified. Like no matter what you think about Georgia or Ole Miss and Alabama, like I said, all three of those teams played each other or played one another to where it's like you can't sit there and have Ole Miss win by 20 against Georgia and then rank Georgia higher than Ole Miss because we might have two better wins than they do. Like, you know, valuing the strength of schedule and counting our two wins and our two losses. Same thing with Alabama. Alabama beat us head to head. We can't move ahead of Alabama. It's just the way it is. And then Texas is ranked so high because their one loss is to Georgia. It's like I said, there's not that much movement. So, like I said, you get these 12 teams in, and honestly, most of the order, especially out after the top four, doesn't really matter because they're gonna play themselves out. Like you said, Notre Dame could really, shit the bed and lose to Army. And then, 5 Indiana plays 2 Ohio State this week. So one of those are dropping off. Not off the playoffs, but they're going to move down. And then, like you said, and then who else moves up? Because most of the SEC is done with SEC play. The only one that I can think of that has a key matchup would be Texas plays Texas A&M at the end of the year. So that's really the only thing that I can see changing with any of these SEC teams because they really, they have that extra non-conference game. So like Tennessee plays UTEP this week, Georgia plays UMass, and then plays Georgia Tech. So there's just not a lot of movement. So like I said, people just kind of need to relax and just let it play out. We still got a couple weeks of football. There's a couple key matchups that, like you said, will kind of, make your own destiny. Like if Colorado wins the Big 12, they'll be in for sure. So it's like, at this point, you know, win, win the games that you need to win, and you'll find your spot in the playoff.
And going back to, the Old Miss Georgia. Georgia gets the pass for losing to Old Miss because Old Miss lost to Kentucky at home.
Yeah.
You can't lose to a 4-6 team at home. Like losses, who you lose to matters. Like it needs to be held
And I
against
think
you.
that's where, yeah, yeah. But I think that's where Georgia fans are a little bit upset with us being at 10 is because, like I said, we beat Clemson, who is currently ranked 17th. They were ranked higher when we beat them. And then we beat Texas on the road. And then, like you said, you don't want to value your losses, but we lost to Alabama on the road and Ole Miss on the road. And both of those teams are in the top. So, we have two top 20 victories and then two top 10 losses. So I think that's where a lot of people get kind of upset about it. Like you said, like, oh, this lost to Kentucky. Yeah, they beat us head to head, but they lost to Kentucky. And same with Notre Dame. They lost to a MAC team. They shouldn't even be in there. But like I said, win the games you're supposed to win, and you'll find a spot no matter where it is.
Right. I mean, if you look, Georgia has the best 3 wins with Clemson, Texas, and Tennessee. If you're going resume base, Georgia has the 3 best wins, but you also have the two marks against you with Alabama and Ole Miss. So I mean, it all
Mm-hmm.
evens out. I mean, how things are right now isn't how they're going to end. I mean, Oregon could lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten and drop out. I don't think anything's staying. Nobody's in the seed that they're going to finish right now. So it's just a whole lot of give us stuff to complain about for a week until the next one comes out. That should do it for us on the Power 2 Pod. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and review, and have a good one, guys.
See ya.